weekend long, the men's NCAA tournament. We have a Final Four. The Final Four is set. Duke, North Carolina, Villanova, and Kansas. Yes, 4 Blue Bloods have finally reached the Final Four. Duke with 5 NCAA championships, Carolina with 6, Villanova with 3, and Kansas with 3. The last time that we saw a Final Four that featured 4 teams that were all considered blue bloods was in 2009. You had Carolina that had 6 obviously championships. You had Michigan State 2, UConn 4, and you had Villanova as well with 3. Now, prior to that, 2008 was also a very good Final Four. That's where you had Florida, you had Memphis, or not Florida. That was actually a little bit earlier. You had Kansas, you had Memphis, you had UCLA, and you had North Carolina. Obviously, Memphis at the time, though, they only had and still only have 1 national championship, so it's not quite the same. But really, you have to go back 13 years to 2009, which was the last time that you had such a jam-packed, a star-studded, blue blood-filled Final Four. And so before that, 1993 was the last elite kind of Final Four group where you had North Carolina, who ultimately won. You had Michigan that only had 1 title, Kentucky with 8, and Kansas with 3. So it's become such a rarity when you have so many blue bloods in the Final Four. And it's more a testament to the depth of college basketball and the unpredictability, the uncertainty of every season, more so than a discredit to those blue bloods not being able to reach that stage. But what makes this year so much more special, I think, than in years past is because not only do you have those same big blue blood programs that have reached the Final Four, but you also have 3 of the most legendary coaches in the sport of college basketball. Obviously, Mike Krzyzewski, 75 years old, an absolute legend with Duke, reaching now his 13th, crazy to believe, 13th Final Four with the Duke Blue Devils. He's obviously won 5 national championships with them. And so this is his final season. This is his last farewell tour. He's trying to go out on top, and his team is in the Final Four. So you got that one little storyline going on. Now, obviously, in the eyes of many, he is perhaps the first or second greatest college basketball coach of all time. I think most people would probably give the edge to John Wooden, former late UCLA head coach. But even setting that aside, you'd probably argue that he is first, if not second, probably at the worst, second best college basketball coach of all time. So there's no shame in that. That's how legendary he is. And even Roy Williams, the former head coach of North Carolina, even if you want to say, well, he's retired and he's no longer a part of this kind of quadruple group, well, you still have perhaps the next heir of really elite, notable college basketball coaches. Jay Wright, Villanova, 2 national championships. Bill Self, a national championship. Both of those guys have led their programs to 4 Final Four appearances over the course of their careers. So this is rarefied air for a lot of reasons, not just because of the names on the jerseys, not just because of the programs, but because of also the coaches. And clearly Hubert Davis is quickly ascending in the sport as a premier head coach. The job that he's done at North Carolina is spectacular, especially mid-season, given the struggles and the turmoil that program was having to endure all season. It's impressive. And then you have perhaps the greatest college basketball rivalry of all time in the Final Four, Duke and Carolina meeting for the first time ever in the Final Four. These 2 teams have played 257 times since 1920. They have combined to play in 334 NCAA tournament games. And they have combined to win 248 NCAA tournament games, but they've never played each other once. Never played each other once. They're 8 miles away. ACC, elite competition, elite heated rivals, heated foes, not a single time. And now we are blessed with this opportunity to see them square off in the Final Four for the first time since 1991, which is serendipitous because that was the last time that Carolina and Duke competed against one another in the Final Four. And that was the first time that Mike Krzyzewski won his first national championship with Duke. Now, not saying that is necessarily going to happen this year, but it is an interesting coincidence in terms of the timing when that all happened. So that's the backdrop. And obviously, when you start to look at the specific matchups and you look at Carolina and Duke and the fact that the manners in which they split their season series this year, they split the first 2 games, and the only 2 times they met this year, Duke blew out Carolina at Chapel Hill by 20. And the Tar Heels returned the favor in Mike Krzyzewski's final home game of the regular season at Cameron Indoor Stadium. They won 94-81. They beat them by 13 in a game that many viewed as a shocking result. And so that's kind of the backdrop when you look at this Final Four. And so it's super intriguing to me. Now, I think Villanova has been handed a raw deck. They just lost Justin Moore to a torn Achilles. Hopefully he can recover quickly. He was their second leading scorer, one of their top rebounders, one of their top facilitating guys, and assist men on the team. So that's a major blow for them. And I think that if you look at the way Kansas, they looked dead in the water in the first half against Miami, but they basically underwent plastic surgery in the second half to clamp down and hold the Hurricanes to 15 points in the second half. If they're playing defense like that, they ultimately won by 26. If they're playing defense like that, they're a tough team to beat. They're a tough team to beat. Bill Self has coached them up really well on the defensive end, and we're starting to see it. I mean, they outscored the Hurricanes by 32 in that second half. So that's telling. That's telling. Now, I truthfully think that the winner between Duke and North Carolina is probably going to go on to win, because I just think the style of basketball that they're playing the best style of basketball throughout this tournament. I think they have been playing that throughout the tournament. I think you look at Duke, they've been one of the best execution teams in the final 5 minutes of games. We saw it against Michigan State. We saw it against Texas Tech, that they really are starting to execute at a supremely high level. And in large part, especially in the 5 minutes, in large part, it's because their stars are starting to play like stars, right? You're starting to see Banchero elevate his game down the stretch. You're starting to see Roach hit clutch shots after shot after shot after shot. He's been playmaking at a high level. You have Keels knocking down big-time buckets as well. So they're getting production from all their key guys, all their stars. And really, that's the same argument to be made for North Carolina. Caleb Love has been playing sensationally well. Obviously, he heated up. He dropped 31, unfortunately, against UCLA. If not for that, I think the Bruins end up being in this spot in the Final Four. But needless to say, he's been playing well. RJ Davis is orchestrating the offense well. Armando Bacot has been a man amongst boys in the middle, just manning the middle defensively, offensively, at 20 points and 20 rebounds against St. Peter's. So he's playing extremely well. I think that Duke probably has the narrow edge over Carolina this go around because they're playing for the third time. They've got a little bit more momentum. And I'd say, or less so momentum, but I think personal motivation, the fact that Carolina smacked them in their final game. But then again, the same argument can be made for Carolina. So I think it's going to be fascinating to see that matchup, but I do think that the winner of that game will go on to likely win the national championship. I just think that the way that they're playing, the confidence, the swagger, it's going to be tough to beat. But again, it's so special, so unique to have this kind of Final Four matchup the way that it's shaking out. Four blue bloods, elite programs. Again, Carolina with 6, Duke with 5, Villanova and Kansas each with 3. It's extremely unique. We just don't see it too often. Don't see it too often.